From the burning mesas of the Arizona desert to the slot machine-clad boardwalks of New Jersey, it's the Imaginarium with Scott and Todd. I'm Scott Colbert.
I'm the horror nerd, Todd Staruch.
And do you have your lightsaber out?
Define lightsaber.
Well,
I mean, I do call it that sometimes.
In your case, it would be the swizzle stick in your whiskey.
Wow. Okay.
It is
off to a rollicking start.
Well, of course, because it's our last show for the year.
It is.
It is.
Wow.
And thank God for that, because what a crap year it's been. Yeah, well, we'll get into that just a little bit, but this is our Star Wars spectacular.
Dun, dun, dun.
Cool.
And I guarantee you it won't suck nearly as much as the Star Wars Holiday Special.
Well, that's a guarantee.
Yeah, I would hope not.
And with us is going to be our resident Star Wars geek, Steve Fallon. He's been on the show before. So, hi, Steve.
Yes. Hello, Scott and Todd. Thank you very much for having me back.
Absolutely. Welcome.
Last time you were on, we talked about Star Wars just a little bit, and we had talked about having you come on for the Star Wars show once Rouge One came out, as everybody seems to want to spell it on Facebook. I don't know how you can screw up a word like rogue. How do you manage to do that?
Well, I have to admit, sometimes I have a problem with certain words, and even I had a problem with rogue sometimes. I know it's one of those, one of those odd words. Like there's a few more of them, but rogue is definitely one of them. But I have it now.
Well, here's a word that we won't have problems with: spoilers. There's going to be a ton of them.
Spoilers, yes.
Yes. So if you have not seen Rogue One, if you've not seen A Force Awakens, or the other Star Wars movies, then you should probably not listen to this until after you've seen them, unless you don't mind, knowing what happens. But it's impossible to do this kind of a show and not have any kind of spoilers about the new movies that are out. You can't really do it. And it's been a couple of weeks since it's been out, and most of the people who listen to our show are into the Star Wars stuff enough that they've probably already seen it. So hopefully it won't be a problem for people. And if it is, well, then we'll give you your money.
What can I tell you?
So there's that.
Yeah.
We'll double your money back.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, well, let's start off with Carrie Fisher, who unfortunately had a heart attack while she was on her flight back from London to LA last Friday and passed away yesterday.
Yeah, it's such a shame. And, I guess you can consider Carrie as one of the big three as far as the main characters go, Han, Luke, and Leia. And, I guess she was the youngest, I think. And I think she was younger than Mark. Harrison may be the oldest, I think. And, it's really a shock and a shame. My goodness.
Yeah, she was 60. That's all. Just 60.
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I look at somebody's age and I think, Jesus, they're only 9 years older than I am.
Yeah. I mean, I'm 51, so she has 9 years on me, but 60 is, relatively young in today's day.
Well, anymore it is. 60 is the new 50, apparently.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what were you going to say, Todd?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with both of you guys. That's one I just didn't see coming. Like, obviously, the Reaper can come for any of us at any time, I suppose. But I was just processing the death of George Michael when, boom, 2 days later, it's Carrie Fisher, and I had hoped that she would pull through because there were so many reports that she was in stable condition. Right. But I guess stable just means no longer in the ICU or something like that. I don't know. But, as I posted the other day, really, I don't want to go into it. I know I think both of you watched my little video rant.
Yeah, I did
the other day. I just couldn't take it anymore. I'm so tired of the intellectual elitists on social media telling me how I should or should not mourn the death of a favorite celebrity. Love it or
Sure.
hate it, Star Wars is a part of pop culture all over the world. My dad is not a sci-fi fan, and my dad knows a lot about Star Wars. It's just part of the fabric of our lives.
Exactly.
So for me, it was a very emotional thing hearing that she had passed, and it is the only time I now regret not getting a celebrity autograph and photo op when I had the chance. So a lot of my friends were posting pics of when they had met her, and she looked so friendly and nice, and she's given everybody a hug. And now I really regret not taking the opportunity. It was one of those things I figured, well, she's relatively young, she'll be at another convention someday.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'll just see her then, Well, lesson learned.
It's so deeply ingrained in like the lexicon of not just America, but pretty much every civilized country of the world. And yeah, she was, a major face of Star Wars. And when you see her and the other characters and watch the new movies, it's a lot more than just watching a movie. You feel, especially guys our age, you feel, something inside that kind of brings you back to the 70s and the 80s when they were, happening at the time. So seeing somebody like Carrie, not here anymore, yeah, it's definitely something you feel, and definitely something that hurts.
You feel like they're old friends.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have to admit, and I've said this before on the show, and I've written about it, so it's not a surprise. Star Wars has never been my favorite geek franchise. I didn't get into it like everybody else. I was more of a close encounters of the third kind of a guy that year. That appealed to me more. Right. But I'll tell you something. When I watched The Force Awakens, and I saw Han Solo and Chewbacca, and then I saw Princess Leia later on, I kind of got chills. Because it really was cool seeing them again, And the banter back and forth, it felt like going home. So if I can feel that, as somebody who's not necessarily a huge Star Wars fan, if I'm able to feel that, then imagine how others who are, in that kind of fandom feel. And you could probably go into the deepest parts of the Amazon jungle, and there would be, some tribe who would say, "May the Force be with you."
I agree, and it's funny the when you just said, Scott, like when you were just talking, I was thinking about it, and then you said it. You said it felt like coming home, and there's that scene, when Chewie and Han go back, the door opens and they're back on the Millennium Falcon, and Han says, "Chewie, we're home."
Mm-hmm.
That they put that line in there for a reason,
yes.
Because Scott, you just said it for that very reason, because it did feel like a homecoming for millions of fans.
Oh yeah, I mean that scene, and especially other scenes in the movie, and the ending in particular, when you finally see Luke. I mean, these guys, and girls represent, our childhood, and it's just so much more than even just seeing them again. It just brings you back in mind and body in a way, and you feel like you're a kid again. And that's exactly what happened with Force Awakens. It was, like I said, Todd, it was like going home.
Yeah, and I. In a way, I feel sad for all the cynics out there, Mm-hmm. I've posted many times on social media that of the power that art has, whether it's film or TV or music or literature.
Yep.
The power of film to move us, to make us happy, make us sad, make us excited,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it might be. And I feel sad for someone who, views the death of Carrie Fisher with such cynicism. Of course, I didn't know her personally, you know? I wasn't a family member or a close friend, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't affect me in a certain way. You know, they've been part of our lives for what now? Almost 40 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Kind of reaction that Carrie Fisher's death received on Facebook was absolutely amazing. And I hadn't seen anything like that since probably David Bowie and Prince died earlier in the year. I mean, those three were the ones who really dominated social media for days after their deaths. I'm glad she's getting that recognition because I don't know. I'm not Carrie Fisher, so I don't know how she really felt, but I would imagine there's got to be a point where, 40 years on, you think, I've done all these other things and people still know me as fucking Princess Leia. God,
But on the plus side, though, she really seems to embrace it.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, the day before it happened, I downloaded her new book, and I started reading it yesterday on my way actually to see Rogue One, which turned out to be bittersweet. A friend and I had tickets for last night, and as it turns out, it was the day that it happened. And in her book, her new book, The Princess Diarist, it's pretty much all about her being Princess Leia, and everything that happened during the filming of the original movie.
I'm going to have to pick that up because she's a fantastic writer. And, I mean, outside of her acting, I always liked her as a person. She was one of those people who had her demons, and she wasn't afraid to talk about them, and she confronted them, and she dealt with them. And she really was the kind of a person that you could admire. And,
she said one really interesting thing in the book where she says, she's talking about, obviously people know about the affair between her and Harrison Ford, and she goes into a lot of detail about that. But one thing she said, which was really interesting, was that, she wasn't really doing it like maliciously or anything, revealing everything. She just wanted to tell her story before she passed on. And she wanted to get it right before she was no longer able to correct anybody, so to speak.
Wow.
So I thought that was pretty cool that, she wanted to get it out there in her words before she died.
It's almost like a foreshadowing of her own death.
Yeah. And she succeeded. She definitely set the story straight on the affair and a lot of other stuff. It's a great book.
And of course there were the others on the the interwebs that, said, oh, well, you may know her as Princess Leia, but I know her from, and they wouldn't even name something like Postcards from the Edge or, Drop Dead Fred. They'd name some obscure art house film that she was in when she was 17 or whatever. And I'm like, okay, I get it. Like, you're fucking smarter than I am. Like, I get it. Like, I liked Postcards from the Edge too. I thought it was cool. And I agree with you, you guys. She was very outspoken. I missed the chance to see her one-woman show, but I heard that was fantastic.
Yeah, I heard that.
She was very, whether it was addiction, mental illness, what have you, she was very upfront about it, and I admired her for that, and especially dealing, and how she dealt with the fact coming from a family that was basically Hollywood royalty.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am going to think about it for the rest of my life about how I passed up that chance to meet her. She was at the Monster Mania convention here in Cherry Hill, New Jersey a few years ago. And it was part of like a VIP package. And I was going through one of my phases where I was like, oh, these fucking conventions want all this money, and it's getting so expensive. And I just passed up the chance. And again, I had it in my mind back, it was like 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm like, oh, she's only 55, 56, not old.
Sure.
There's celebrities doing conventions in their 90s. Like, what am I? And lo and behold, is what happens. So now it's one of these things I'm going to regret for a long, long time.
And now that can even bring another problem if you want to buy the autographs from somebody, now you have to be sure that it's authentic and all that kind of thing, and buy it from the correct source, the right source. So that can be other problems.
Yeah, I've never been one for that, Stephen. For me, it's the joy of meeting the person, The autograph is just a happy memento of the occasion, but for me, it's that experience, of getting to meet my favorite celebrity, So, but you make an excellent point, because watch, the Carrie Fisher memorabilia is going to flood the market in a day or two, if it hasn't already.
Oh, I'm sure it already has. I bet you if you go on eBay, there's probably thousands of listings for her already.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm already noticing, on Facebook, certain sponsors and advertisers, they already have like a whole slew of new Carrie, aka Star Wars, bootleg shirts available, RIP and all that kind of thing. And, I've seen, I think, like 4 different ones today.
Wow.
Giovanni, I just saw, through the magic of the internet, new listing just today, Star Wars Carrie Fisher, Princess Diarist, signed autograph book, buy it now, $1,000.
Ow!
$1,000.
Wow. Do they give you a reach around with that at least?
Listen, you better.
Good God.
So I'm scrolling here a little bit, and it looks like 8x10 signed 8x10s are averaging about $100, which I guess isn't too bad.
Not too bad if it's real. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Here's another one. Now this 8x10, somebody wants $300. So yeah, it's going to get nuts. I mean, it's really going to get nuts.
I also want to mention real quick that her mother, Debbie Reynolds, had a stroke today and is in the hospital.
Yeah. I think I read somewhere that she's so heartbroken about what happened to Carrie a couple of days ago that she's having a hard time with it. And my goodness, I mean, what a big shame if this happens, if she, passes on. And she's a lot older and I imagine more fragile.
Yeah.
I think she's in her 90s.
84. I'm looking at it 84. Right now on TMZ. Believe it or not, TMZ is actually pretty good when it comes to these things. Like, they're usually pretty accurate,
They are. I've never had a problem quoting TMZ as a source because, Harvey Levin, being a lawyer, wants to make sure that he doesn't get sued. So he goes the extra mile most of the time in making sure that his sources and the information that TMZ puts out is correct.
So the last update they have is about 3 o'clock Pacific time. Debbie's condition is listed as fair to serious. Possible stroke. We're told 84-year-old Debbie has been distraught since Carrie's emergency Friday on a United jet. So let's... oh,
my goodness.
I'm not one to offer thoughts and prayers, but my thoughts do go out to that poor family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My God.
Even one more thing with Carrie. Now, of course, they're saying that, people are wondering what's going to happen now with episode 9 because she's already filmed all her scenes for episode 8. And now there was even speculation that they might CGI her into episode 9. And my goodness, I really hope they don't do that.
Oh, me too.
Yeah, because, especially such an iconic character, it would be a real shame to say goodbye to Carrie Fisher, who's not really Carrie Fisher. And I really wouldn't want that to happen. So I hope they don't go that route.
Yeah, I hope not either. Because one of the things that I actually did want to talk about, this is the perfect time to bring it up, is I didn't feel very comfortable with how they put Peter Cushing in Rogue One. I was glad to see the character, but there was just something kind of distasteful, I guess, about them doing that. And I know his estate, gave their permission to do it. But who knows if he would ever have wanted that done? I mean, when he died, something like that wasn't even a possibility. Wasn't even, a thought in anybody's head to be able to computerize him and put him in a movie. And it's kind of, the only thing we really have is our identities, our physical features and stuff. And to be able to So that's the highest bidder now. I have a little bit of an issue with that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's essentially what happened, right? I mean, his estate had to give the permission, so they had to give their price, I assume. And yeah, they pretty much resurrected him from the dead. And he died, what was it, 94, I think, 22
Yeah,
years ago. And, it wasn't even a cameo or anything. He was one of the stars of the movie, Peter Cushing.
yeah.
And like I've said this about the CGI of him, it looks, I guess, as a project, I guess as like a technological project, it looks okay. But for a character who's supposed to be human in a movie, it's not really quite there. And I don't know if it ever will be. I'm not sure if you can ever duplicate human mass well with CGI. Maybe 20 years from now, but not yet, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't think it's quite there yet either, because when he's not moving, it's very obvious he's not moving. You don't even see him slightly breathing or anything. So he just kind of looks like a statue. And I think that's what I find kind of creepy about it. And, think about what this may do for actors in the future. Are we going to get to a point where we no longer need actors because we can just CGI everybody into a movie?
Well, I think I read a couple of days ago that there's going to be a new gangster movie. I forget who's making it, and De Niro is one of the actors, and the movie takes place in the 70s, I believe, and they're going to CGI 70s faces on the actors.
Oh, God.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Did you guys see Tron Legacy?
I didn't, no.
They did that with Jeff Bridges. Because part of the movie takes place in the past, and they CGI'd like his young
Right.
face.
Right.
And oh my God, it was weird. I mean, it was fucking weird. It was like Polar Express weird,
Yeah.
That's bad.
Yeah, it was just creepy. And I'm like, they didn't need to show his face. Like, it was enough. Like, the audience is smart enough to know, okay, this scene takes place 30 years ago. We know that's a Jeff Bridges character from 30 years ago. So we don't really need to see his face. Like, just keep showing it from the back.
Sure.
Like, we get it. The whole Peter Cushing thing, I have real mixed feelings about it. I guess it was a problem because of the character, like the when and where the story takes place. That character sort of had to be there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was weird. It was weird just knowing, and it wasn't like he just died. Like you said, it was 20-something years ago, I don't know how.
I guess that probably helps it a little in a way, because I guess it would be a little more cryptic maybe if it was so fresh. So maybe the fact that he did die 2 decades or so ago, it maybe helped the presence of his fakeness a little bit in a way, if I'm making any sense.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Yeah, I see it.
But yeah, it was a great experiment. It's just not all the way there. It's fun to think about, hey, can you resurrect these people from the dead to be in a movie again? But yeah, it's kind of creepy, and it's very interesting too, but it's just not there. Not now.
Yeah.
Well, I had read, and I think it was on the Entertainment Weekly website, that at the very end of Rogue One, where we see Princess Leia, that was present day Carrie Fisher, but she, they did the same thing with her. They made her look like she did 40 years ago.
Well, I think that was an actress, I think, for the body.
Oh,
and
and so they just used her head then. Okay.
Right.
All right.
And at least there's an actress credited for that on the IMDb. I didn't specifically read it was an actress, but it seems like it was an actress. The body did look real, especially when the soldier handed over the file to carry to Princess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I tell you what, I saw the film the night before opening night, and the theater was packed. And when that happened, when she turned around, and wow, it's Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia, the whole theater just was like, oh, my goodness, you know, it was the big shock of the movie, and even more than when Vader came, because we all know he was going to come.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was something, and you know, kind of the same thing. It looked like what it looked like, you know. I mean, it just wasn't quite there, but it was still kind of cool to see it, I guess, because it was very brief and she wasn't like a star of the movie, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say, because it was only a couple of seconds of screen time. I could deal with it a lot better. You're right. It's got like sort of like a weird glow that a normal face doesn't have, you know. So you're right. You know, it's clear. But I was okay with it because it was maybe, 2 or 3 seconds of screen time and then done. So I was okay with it.
Well, what I'm really curious about, I haven't been able to find out yet. I'm curious about where the vocal came from, because I'm pretty sure that's Carrie's voice saying hope. And I'm wondering if it was maybe from some reading or another movie she was in or a screen test or something. Well, I'm pretty positive that was her.
They probably took it from one of the other movies. I'm sure she said hope in one of them at least.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of when, but at least they got her voice down, the real voice, I think it is. But it was a great scene. I liked it.
It was, and you know, and that happened, I think, probably within the last 30 seconds of the movie, and what a way to end it.
Yeah, I mean, it literally ends right before the beginning of the real Star Wars Episode 4. And,
let's interrupt you, but that brings up one of my points about Rogue One. I mean, something I've got a beef with about it. Well, not the movie itself, but how the studio was framing it as a standalone story. And it's not. It's a prequel, period. You know, a standalone story has a beginning, a middle, and a conclusion. This doesn't necessarily have a conclusion because the rest of the story is told in A New Hope. And after I saw it, I was really annoyed that it was being referred to as, standalone, because it's not. It's really it's a prequel in every sense of the word.
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I guess, you know, you can say the proper title should have been Episode 3.5 or something.
Yeah.
Really, you're right, though.
Didn't I say that the other day, Scott?
Yes, you did.
That's the exact thing, Steve, I said the other day. Because Scott was bitching and moaning about that. And and I said, well, no, and I said, you know what? I hadn't thought about that. I said, but Scott, you're quite right. It really is a prequel. It's like episode, 3.5, I guess.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess not many people are picking up on that, but that really is true. Scott, what you said, that is correct. It's a prequel.
And it's certainly a better prequel than what Lucas had done with the three.
Well.
And I say that, jokingly, but I actually also do believe that. I really think Rogue One and A Force Awakens were the Star Wars movies we should have had when George was doing them, 10, 15 years ago. That's what we needed. That's what we wanted. And we didn't get that then, but we have it now. And I'm glad we have them now, because I think these two movies are far superior to the other three that he did.
Yeah, I mean, he just couldn't find a way to make those movies fun, really. I mean, there was a lot of hardware and an awful lot of CGI, but they just didn't have that whimsical fun that the originals had and what these two had.
Exactly. And I think it's funny. And I told this story, I think it was on maybe the Shut Up Kids podcast a couple of years ago. But I was talking about the Star Wars movies, the three prequels. And I remember I went with my friend Jim, and we saw the first one. And afterwards, we just kind of looked at each other and said, well, that's 2 hours of our lives we'll never get back. But even in spite of that, we went to see the second one, and we left the theater saying, well, that's 4 hours of our lives we'll never get back. Then we saw the third one, which was Moderately better. I like the third one the best out of all three, but still they were all disappointments. And the funny thing is, I felt that way when I saw them immediately, but when they came out, they were getting such rave reviews and people were loving them, and I'm like, what movies were you watching?
That's funny. You actually walked out of the second one. I can't blame you because I think that one is by far the worst of them all. The second one, Attack of the Clones.
Well, I walked out of the movie theater. We didn't walk out of the movie. But, we finished watching, all of them. But after, the movie was over and we left the theater, we were thinking, well, 4 hours of our lives we won't get back now after seeing those two. And they were just disappointing, and it was because they were all digital and all CGI, and it looked pretty, but it had no soul.
Yes, no heart and soul. And I did like the first one. I liked it. I didn't love it, but it was like, okay, that was okay. I wished it was a lot better, but it was all right. And the second one, forget it. And the third one, much better, but still, I think Force Awakens blows all three of them away.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, it's not even close. And I remember so many of my friends wringing their hands when the news came out that Disney had bought Lucasfilm. And I said, trust me, this is the best thing that could have possibly happened. Because now you have the virtually unlimited resources of Disney, behind you, and you have writers who can write and directors who can direct. Look, I as much of a beef I have with George Lucas in a lot of ways, he's still an icon. I mean, he brought us Star Wars and Indiana Jones. Like I can never ever minimize George Lucas's impact in moviedom, but he was never a good writer of dialogue. And with the prequels, I think he just became so enamored with the technical wizardry at his disposal that story fell by the wayside, and he's, and thus we got Jar Jar Binks,
So many people hate him. I actually kind of like him.
Okay, the show's over.
But not like in like a real true like. I just love that so many people hate him. He bothers so many people. And something I didn't pick up on until I read it, and then I was like, yeah, that could be true. With The Force Awakens, the very first line of the movie when Max von Sydow gives Poe the little file thing, and he says, "This will begin to make things right," or "This will start to make things right," one or the other. I read that might have been their little jab at the prequel movies.
Maybe, yeah.
Now, I wonder. Yeah.
All right, so go ahead.
Oh no, I think they really did slip that in there as a little message.
That would be awesome. I mean, that's awesome to think of that. To think about that.
Yeah.
It is. Well, even if it's not true, I'm going to believe it is.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to choose to believe that.
Because that's one of those stories that's too good to not be true.
Exactly.
All right, so what do we think of Rogue One? What are our reviews of it, so to speak, Todd?
Oh, I loved it. For me, it brought back like that childhood excitement, of the original Star Wars. It had it had characters that I cared about. It had fantastic, battle scenes and fight scenes. It had a big emotional impact, with what happens in the last 20 minutes of the movie. Does it have its flaws? Yeah, but I choose not to nitpick, I could nitpick any movie you put in front of me, and I've been working on a little bit of a write-up for my website on some of those things, just because, I don't know if I ever mentioned it, Scott, but I have a fondness for like watching movies and finding like continuity errors or plot holes
Right.
just for the fun of it, like not to attack a movie. You know, I just find it fun to spot some of those things.
Sure.
You know, so I just get a kick out of it. And so there are a couple of them, you know. But other than that, I just loved it. I had such a good time. I want to see it again in IMAX because I saw it in 3D, but in like a normal theater, and the screen wasn't quite big enough to kind of immerse me in the movie. So
Right.
I'd really like to go see it in IMAX 3D. I want to feel like I'm piloting an X-Wing, damn it. I have a good friend. I'm going to give him a shout out. Tony DiBenedetto is a good friend, and he has been working with Lucasfilm for many years now, repping some of the stars at conventions and just being, you know, involved with Lucasfilm. And he got to go to the premiere, and they had like full scale replicas of some of the vehicles and stuff.
Oh, wow.
You know, at the premiere, and I was so jealous. Like, I was just so jealous seeing him next to those things and seeing him posing with some of the stars of the film. Yeah. I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to choke him because I'm just so jealous.
Well, is that like when they had that picture of the X-Wing on the street?
Yes.
Is that that part?
Yep.
That was great.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I was happy for him, you know, because he got to experience that, but I was very envious at the same time. But overall, I thought the movie was well done. And just one quick thing, 'cause I want to hear what Steve has to say about it. I think that any of these trolls out there that claim to be upset over the fact that The Force Awakens and Rogue One had like a strong female lead, they need to, you know, call up for that free trial of the testosterone, you know, builder. Like, if you're so threatened by that, then you need some serious help. Like, I'm sorry that you're deficient in that area, but they have medicine for that now, and some people should take advantage of it. I thought Jin was fantastic.
Agree.
So what'd you think, Steve?
Well, about what you just said, I totally agree. I mean, especially with the Star Wars movies, I mean, it's kind of like, hello, Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia in 1977
right?
kind of kicked all kinds of ass. You know, if you have a problem with Jin or you have a problem with Rey, you're way late in the game. You know, but yeah, I thought she was great and you know, adorable at the same time. You know, and but about the movie itself, you know, it's funny because when I saw it the first night, I liked it a lot. I saw it again last night, and I loved it even more. It was really kind of funny. It got better the second time. Not that it was bad by any means the first time. I mean, I walked out of the theater like, you know, shaking and smiling, you know, and partially crying. Oh my God, you know, this was great. And but the second time was even better. And yeah, I thought it was fantastic, especially the last 20 minutes or so. My only thing with it, and this is like a personal thing, my only thing with it, and I think I understand now what they were talking about when they said they went to do a lot of reshoots, because some people felt that it kind of looked too much like a war movie. A lot of people said, well, yeah, well, a lot of movies do reshoots, and of course that's correct. But they probably had a legitimate concern, because if there were too many of certain scenes, I can kind of see how it might have looked too closely resembling a war movie. And like kind of like the apocalypse, that kind of thing, like A Boy and His Dog, that kind of setting. A movie I loved, by the way.
Yeah.
And so I think they were concerned about that and kind of made it a little more Star Warsy in certain scenes, and which probably was a good thing that they did. I think it probably helped the movie a lot, and especially there was a lot of stuff in the trailer that didn't end up in the movie. So I'm curious to see if that's included in any deleted scenes release or something. But all in all, I mean, I totally agree with you, Todd. It was great. You know, it moved really great, especially after the beginning. You know, a lot of people say it was kind of slow, and it was kind of slow, but it was definitely good establishing locales and people, which had to be done.
Sure.
And but all in all, and the plot was interesting enough where, you can still watch when there was not much action going on and still be very into the movie. And, very interesting plot. And I thought it was clever as hell how they explained away that 40-year-old joke. Oh, it was so easy to blow up the Death Star.
Yes.
That was extremely clever.
I was going to mention that.
Right? I mean, it was very, very clever. And now, it's no longer a joke. And it makes perfect sense. It's not even like a silly thing they came up with. It was genius the way they did it.
Yep.
And my God, I mean, Vader's scene,
right?
It's crazy. I mean, forget it. I mean, they had to throw that in, you had to give him the lightsaber and just, barrel some guys against walls and chop them up a bit. And, it was great. And of course, the last scene where the ship is making the escape, and of course they get caught at the beginning of episode 4. But all in all, I think as far as a Star Wars movie goes, it definitely has a great place. It's very deserving, and I think it's going to even get better as it goes on. I can't wait to see it again. I'll probably like it better.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I definitely need to see it again. I saw it in IMAX 3D. And the problem I had was the space scenes were making me nauseous because it was so well done. And I had a very hard time adjusting to, the non-space scenes. I mean, it's the first time that ever really happened to me in a 3D movie. I've never had that problem before. But I did with this, so I don't think I enjoyed it as much as I would have had I not seen it in 3D. But it has, talking about Vader, it has probably one of the best entrances of any villain in any movie, and that's just when you see Vader's shadow on the wall.
Incredible, without doubt.
I saw that, and I'm like, holy mackerel. Wow.
Yeah.
And that got the hair standing up on the back of my neck.
Yeah, that was a goose pimple moment, man. Yeah, absolutely.
And it just, I can see what you're saying about it, doing the reshoots because it seemed like too much of a war movie, because that was my initial reaction, was like, this is like an Apocalypse Now or something, because it was very action heavy. But what I liked about it was they didn't use music a lot. They were very judicious with the music. In the beginning of where they're being chased through the town, there's no music to it, but it's still really exciting. And it's funny because I thought, I don't remember that happening in any of the other movies. But as I was telling you earlier, I watched The Empire Strikes Back this afternoon, and there was no music during the lightsaber fight between Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker. None.
Right.
Another interesting tidbit about Empire Strikes Back. In the swamp scene with Yoda, and Yoda is communicating with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan says to Yoda, he's our only hope. And then Yoda says, no, there's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking, he must be referring to the guy in, The Force Awakens, whose name just went right out of my head.
Kylo Ren?
Yeah.
Well, I think, just my guess, I think most people would think that he was talking about Leia. Maybe.
Oh, was she really a Jedi? Would she have been considered a Jedi?
No, she wasn't a Jedi, but she was very strong with the Force. And even at the end of Empire Strikes Back, when she felt Luke, when he was calling her,
right,
and she went back to rescue him, told him to turn the Falcon around.
But I thought that was more of their being connected, being brother and sister.
Yeah, that's definitely a good argument too. Sure.
I will say, Empire Strikes Back was really very good. The other thing about Rogue One was they managed to make the walkers look absolutely friggin' huge.
Yeah.
in a way that they weren't quite able to do in Empire Strikes Back. Because when you see them coming down through the jungle, you're like, holy mackerel! It looked like the Empire State Building.
Yeah, it was a great surprise when they popped up, especially out of the blue like that. I love that they had a lot of familiar stuff in Rogue One.
Yeah, I did too, and I'm definitely going to see this again. Like I said, I want to be able to enjoy it and not get motion sick, which disappoints me because I really enjoy seeing 3D movies when it's done well.
Is IMAX in 3D? I've never seen an IMAX movie.
Yeah.
Well, it depends. IMAX is just the format. Like, it's 70 millimeter film, and it's the screen is bigger and the sound is enhanced. But IMAX is not necessarily 3D.
Oh, I see.
You know what I mean? Like, there were a bunch of scenes in The Dark Knight that were filmed in IMAX, but the movie is not 3D, so they're mutually exclusive.
Oh. Yeah, I might go see it in 3D. I've only seen a couple of 3D movies. I noticed that when you put the 3D glasses on, it kind of gets a little dark. Like, slightly darker.
It does, yep.
And the colors get a little bit muted too.
Yeah.
I think, and I don't like Avatar. It's not one of my favorite movies, to say the least. But 3D in that was some of the best that I had seen up until Rogue One.
I haven't even seen that yet. I'm so behind.
Wow, you really do need to catch up. Although,
that.
I mean, because, the sequel's coming out probably 10 or 15 years from now.
I'll make sure I do by then. But I am going to watch Alien. But
yeah. And for those who don't know, he has not seen Alien yet, if you can believe that.
It's horrific. Such a big science fiction fan, and it's 40 years later almost. Horrific.
Yeah. That's it. Hand in your geek card immediately.
Exactly.
No, I want to keep that card, so I'm going to watch it tonight. I'm definitely watching it. But so Scott, all in all, you would say that Rogue One was pretty much a good movie.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like The Force Awakens more.
Yes.
I think that has an edge for me, simply because of being able to feel like I was at home. And then going into the cantina and seeing all the aliens and whatnot. And then seeing Luke's lightsaber. Jesus God. When she pulls out the lightsaber from the box, another chill moment.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, that movie had a bunch. My goodness.
And it was just fun. And I liked that they did practical effects for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. And even when they had to do the CGI, it still kind of worked. I thought that CGI that they used in Force Awakens looked better than some of Rogue One, at least.
Yeah.
Rogue One, I think, was touch and go. I think some scenes looked pretty good, and some you can kind of tell. But for the most part, it was okay. But I thought the CGI in Rogue One was kind of touch and go.
I think
Whoops, sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
I think if they didn't have to do the reshoots, they probably could have spent more time making it look better. I think probably it was just a time thing more than anything else.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I agree with you, Steve. There was a couple of times in Rogue One where I was like, come on, like technology for practical effects has also come a long way. It was one part where it was really noticeable. The battle near the end, when they're trying to bring down the planet shield, and you have the usual Admiral, whatever those creatures are with the bug eyes, in his moving chair. I thought that CGI face was really bad. Like, they don't get the movement right. And I'm like, come on, you couldn't have done a makeup for that. I mean, they did it 30 years ago you couldn't have come up with a mask, and put an actor in a mask. You know, there are times I like CGI as a tool when it's used properly, but there are times where I just think it's a bad choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I think some filmmakers maybe they kind of feel that, and I know how weird this sounds, that they probably feel that the audience will think it looks more fake if they use the real like makeup or something. As odd as that sounds, does that make any sense? Like if we put in like CGI, they'll think it looks more real, maybe. Which I don't know.
It never does.
Yeah, you're right. It really never does, especially with, like you were saying, Todd, especially with things that you can use masks on and good makeup jobs on. I mean, those guys are still around. You know, they need work and they're great. Why not use them?
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. When I get my first $100 million budget to make a movie, I'm going all practical effects. Damn it!
Great.
What's that joke that I think it was Todd Ryan likes to say? We'll fix it in post.
Yep, fix it in post.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I don't like when they try to make a point about modern effects as opposed to older effects. I don't like when they put down some of the classic movies as saying their effects don't look good. That's crazy. I mean, Star Wars 1977, those effects look damn good still. The trench run, the whole bit, that's good stuff. Superman 1978, I mean, that's really good stuff. Those aren't bad effects in the least.
No,
you know, speaking of Tom Ryan, he and I talk about this all the time, right? People bitch about effects or whatever. Go back to the Incredible Hulk TV show when you had Lou Ferrigno wearing green spray paint, you know, and that's what we had back then, and we fucking loved it, you know.
Yeah.
We were like, holy shit, it's the Incredible Hulk. You know, I agree with you 100%. When people bitch about special effects, like they complain about the matte paintings in The Wizard of Oz, I'm like, it was 1939. Like, matte painting was a well-respected art form then.
Yeah.
You know, and every film used it because you didn't have green screen. Like, it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
Oh yeah, and I mean, really, to say that Empire Strikes Back or Star Wars, you know, to make your point like, oh, those effects suck and nothing like now, really, that's just crazy. You know, those effects are still, in my opinion, most of the effects spectacular.
I agree.
I agree too. And I watched A New Hope last night, and unfortunately, it was the enhanced version that had the extra scenes and stuff in it. So it's hard to gauge, but I'm looking at the movie and I'm watching it, I'm thinking, you know, this still looks really goddamn good. You know, for 40 years old, it holds up so well.
I think that this is where Lucas screwed the pooch. I still have my original VHS copies of the unaltered movies.
Nice.
And yes, in A New Hope, you can definitely see the strings occasionally holding up the models and stuff like that. So if Lucas had just said, look, I'm going to use technology to digitally erase some of that stuff, so it's not so obvious, I would have been totally okay with that. Yeah. You know, that I would have been like, you know what, go for it. But again, he was like a kid with like a new tool set. Like, oh my God, what can I do with this? Let's put Jabba the Hutt in a scene where he doesn't fucking belong, you know, and let's do all this goofy shit, you know. And I think that's where he just went off the rails. He fell in love with it, with the whiz bang technology he suddenly had at his disposal, and he went a little too far.
Yeah, that's true, because he did some stuff with certain scenes where it was just so unnecessary. Like in the original, if a mere like spaceship was flying, hey, it looks good. But then he had to have the same spaceship CGI'd, and it's curving a little and twirling a little, and it really doesn't make any difference and looks worse now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
But yeah, you're right though. And the prequels, excuse me, forget it. You know, he took that new toy and he just totally overused it.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, I hope release the originals at some point. I would imagine Disney has to know that there is such a demand for the original that they would try. Well, from what I understand, they said that no original prints exist anymore, but I find that very hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, especially with such a landmark movie. I mean, you knew it was a huge movie just soon after it was released. How can you not want to preserve it?
Exactly.
I did read somewhere a while ago in a couple of places that there was even a 2.5 hour rough cut working print out there somewhere.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see that, of course.
That would be interesting.
Yeah.
All right, so we wrap this up. What are we looking forward to next in Star Wars?
Definitely Episode 8. I can't wait. My goodness, I'm counting the months.
Yeah, me too.
It's like a whole year, my goodness. But, I was saying to my friend last night, I'm 51 years old, and I know this sounds kind of odd, but I really don't mind growing older now that I know I'm going to be seeing more Star Wars films every year. It kind of like makes growing older a little, more comforting in a way. And I don't mind it too much.
Yeah, and the good part is when you get old enough, you'll forget you've seen them. So it's like watching them all over again.
Exactly. See as many as I can before I'm way too old.
Yeah, so we've got that to look forward to. I'm looking forward to the Han Solo movie. I'm curious to see how that's going to be.
Yes. I mean, we're going to have all the stars in that. Han, the Millennium Falcon, Chewie, Lando. Right there, it's like 4 major stars if you count the ship, which it is a star.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a great one. A great one. I can't wait.
I'm gonna take a little bit different tact, and as much as I'm looking forward to it, that might be the one where I'm just a little bit skeptical, because you're taking existing iconic characters and now doing like the younger versions of themselves. Like young Indiana Jones didn't work quite for me, I'm hoping I am proven wrong. Like, I want to be proven wrong so bad, but I have to be honest with myself. I'm just a tiny bit skeptical. That's all.
No, I can definitely see how you and anybody else can, and even me, can see how chancy it is. I mean, Han Solo, Harrison Ford, now all of a sudden it's going to be another actor playing a younger guy. And maybe I'm being like so optimistic because I'm just so Star Wars happy right now, seeing the movie again last night and everything and talking to you guys about it. And, but yeah, I see what you mean about being a little skeptical. Sure. But I'm really hoping they come through. I'm going to be confident and say
nothing would make me happier than to say, well, I was wrong about that.
Yeah, I sure hope it's a good one. And, of course, Episode 8 and 9, it's just going to be great. I love Kylo Ren. He's probably, right up there with my very favorite characters. So I'm really anxious to see what they do with him. And him meeting Mom for the first time. I mean, the first time after he turned to the dark side. And it's going to be great. I can't wait.
There's going to be a lot of excitement in 8 and 9. I'm really looking forward to them, which is something I never thought that I'd say. And I told this to Todd even before Rogue One came out. I was really looking forward to it. Especially after having seen A Force Awakens and realizing, wow, they're going to do a really good job. And it helped with The Force Awakens. They had Lawrence Kasdan work on the script, who did Empire Strikes Back. So there was that little bit of continuity there.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Todd, you definitely make a good point when you were saying that, there's a lot of kind of repeat action from Episode 4 in Force Awakens. And that's true. They definitely took a lot of the plot elements and kind of injected them into Force Awakens. But, and maybe I'm being, more forgiving than most people, but I can see how that might, grate on some people. But I do think the film had enough originality and enough, just whimsical fun to kind of be forgiven about it. But I definitely see what you mean. It took some elements and more than borrowed, I can see.
Yeah, and look, some people were really upset about that, and I'm like, come on, it can't be a 100% fan service movie. Like, there's those of us that are in their, late 40s, early 50s, view these movies from a certain perspective, but they had to reintroduce a whole new audience to the Star Wars universe. So I totally understand why they wrote it that way. I totally get it. For me, it's a minor nitpick. I still enjoyed the fuck out of that movie. Totally.
But you're right, though. Some people just went a little too crazy with being, angry at that, because some people were even nitpicking that the spaceships were the same and things like that. But that's what fans want to see. They want to see those ships. They want to hear those sounds and all of that thing. They want to be back in the Star Wars universe, and that's where they went.
Yep.
It's a lot like seeing your favorite band. You don't want to hear the new stuff. You want to hear the hits.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear the old songs. You don't necessarily want the new characters. You want the comfort of what you've seen before. And
guys, I hate to cut it off. I hate to end the show on a sad note. But I feel it's a Star Wars show, and we talked about it. Sadly, TMZ is reporting Debbie Reynolds has passed away.
Oh my goodness!
Oh dear.
I'm sorry, but just came through.
Oh man.
5:33 p.m. Eastern Time, Pacific Time.
Oh
wow!
God damn it, 2016.
That's horrible, man. That is horrible. That poor woman, and it's because she was so heartbroken.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, and I'm upset now. I like Debbie Reynolds. I met her once at a convention. Very, very nice
really?
lady. Yeah.
I liked her. I liked her a lot too.
Very nice lady.
Yeah, I mean, old school Hollywood class,
Yeah.
Oh man, that's horrible.
Well,
thanks for fucking up the podcast, Todd.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for, man. To bring things down and to ruin everyone's fucking day.
Well, on the plus side, Carrie Fisher and her mom, they were great, and we have the movies, and we love them both, and God rest their souls. They were great.
I'm gonna have to start looking at these deaths in a different way, and rather than mourn their loss, just kind of celebrate what they've left us. Debbie Reynolds has left us a body of work, stretching back 50 years. Carrie Fisher, has a body of work, stretching back 40 years. They've left us things that we can still enjoy in the future. So that's how I'm going to have to look at it. Watership Down passed away too. But he was 94, so,
Yeah.
He had a good run.
Yeah, God, and there's still 3 days left, my goodness.
I don't know how to end this now, so I'm just going to go right into the ending because I'm just too depressed about Debbie Reynolds to do anything else with it. If you like our podcast, check out the other ones that we have at thesupermass.com, including my other podcast, Weekday Matinee. And Jerry Janda will be back, I'm glad to say, in January. We'll be doing a new podcast with him, so you'll have that to look forward to. And until next time, may all of your journeys be filled with pure imagination.